mortgage carried by seller with one payment, amortized with a balloon payment.
Are we seeing a lot of that?
Wow.
In this market?
I think obviously we're probably anticipating that we're going to be seeing more of it. Correct. Okay, so you've got that out there for yourself.
Hey, Susan, on that form, is there a lease purchase option in there? Or is it all owner carried?
Yep.
No lease purchase?
I have a lease.
Okay.
Can I throw a comment on there about owner carry and lease purchase? If you have a buyer, whether you're with a seller or buyer, wanting to make an offer like that, you have to check with the seller's mortgage company to see if they'll allow something like that. I have a buyer who's tried 4 different ways to buy this house. Owner carry, lease purchase, they're all the same. It's called a sales installment agreement, and the mortgage company will not allow that to be done because it encumbers the first mortgage. And if that were to happen without their permission, they would immediately accelerate the loan and ask the seller to pay it off in full. So just be real careful, double check the mortgage that's currently in place, make sure that it's doable.
Okay,
Susan,
good advice, yes.
in the past, we've had a policy that if someone wants to do this, that it should be an attorney, they should have their attorney write it up. And I got a call from CD yesterday, and
CD is the person in Owasso that does what Don does.
and we've got a Keller Williams agent, I don't know if it's in Oklahoma, but they're now having to pay $32,000 because they wrote one of these and they didn't write it right.
Oh.
So he's doing some more checking on this thing, but we're all going to get together on it because I think we should go back to a hard policy of you have an attorney write these
Yeah,
lease
so that'd be
purchases.
up to the seller to have the.
Because you don't
attorney.
want to end up paying your portion of a $32,000 lawsuit.
Okay, everybody got that? Good, thanks for sharing.
Susan, there's,
Yes.
we've gotten into a couple of those, and there's another potential problem that came to our attention. When you do a lease with an option to buy, and the buyer puts a substantial down payment down on the front end, which you typically try to get them to do, you want to take part of your realtor fee on the front end. Well, technically, that's escrow money towards the closing, ultimately, and that's come up as an issue, and I'm not sure how that's resolved, because no matter how much that is, it technically is an escrow down payment towards their ultimate purchase when they exercise that. So
It's
if
the
that's
attorney have to
true,
figure that
a
out.
realtor can't take any commission out of the front end of that transaction. It all has to come on the back at closing. And we're trying to get that answered from an attorney right now.
Okay, good,
but
yeah, because I don't have
I
that
don't know if
answer,
anybody
and I
else has
know
run into
that's.
that, but you sure want to take part of it on the front, but if that's true, you can't, because you're taking escrow funds.
I was told.
But it's an escrow down payment. Whatever they put down, if you're putting it towards their purchase, it's a down payment.
So if an attorney's writing it up, can't the attorney write it up that there's the down
Yes.
payment and then there's the commission? It just
Yes.
has to be written up specifically.
Right.
So basically, the
that.
sellers pay, the buyers pay commission, because it's not
Right.
gonna have any
It gets
buyers.
back to being very careful how they do
Yeah.
it.
The Keller Williams attorney we had at that time said that when we do these things, we're acting
Talk up
in an
again.
attorney's capacity, and we're not attorneys.
We can't hear you.
We
Dawn.
can't hear you.
The Keller Williams attorney we had at the time that we had that policy stated that when you do those lease purchase contracts, you're acting as an attorney,
Oh.
which
Whoa.
is illegal.
No, thank you. No.
That's
So-
why I think we should go back to that policy
Yeah.
until we get some.
We have an attorney, I mean, and he does it for about $500 or $600, but he'll write
Yeah,
one
that's a
up.
lot. That's a lot cheaper.
Absolutely want to
32,000.
wash your hands of liability.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, good. So yes, we will go, but I didn't know we'd ever left that hard and fast policy.
I'll tell you about it later.
Okay. All right, now this non-foreign affidavit, did anybody take this class when OREC came in? Okay, I did not because it was too painful the first time I took it. And I am not, I'm gonna read through this, but I'm thinking this is something that is gonna be done at closing.
Yes.
Because of it saying the undersigned being first duly sworn, he poses and says that. So, here's what it says. This non-foreign affidavit is given by seller transfer pursuant to of the Internal Revenue Code of 1954 as amended in order to induce so-and-so the buyer to refrain from deducting and withholding any required tax on the amount realized by seller upon the sale of buyer of the property briefly described as follows. Seller is not a foreign person, non-resident alien, foreign corporation, oh, I think I've just decided what this is, foreign partnership, foreign trust, or foreign estate, and seller is either a citizen or resident of the United States, a domestic partnership or a domestic corporation, or an estate or trust other than a foreign estate or foreign trust, as those terms are defined in that code. Seller's taxpayer ID number or social security number, as those terms are defined in sections of the code, is, and then the seller's numbers and or address. Undersigned seller acknowledges that this certification may be disclosed to the Internal Revenue Service and declares under penalties of perjury that the foregoing information is true, correct, and complete. I wonder if they took out that other paragraph.
That's if the sales exceeds a certain amount.
300,000. Correct. Thank you for reminding us. No, it's still in there, so I'm not quite sure. So I will look into that. Sorry, I just totally missed that non-foreign affidavit, and we'll add that in the email, what the information is and what the purpose of this, but I'm certain it's something that's gonna have to be done close.
You want to cover the information sheet?
No, let's leave all this. Okay, any questions?
That whatever, that last one, is that a mandatory form now that we have, I don't know what that is. Is that something we have to do?
They bring it up at closing, don't they?
The non-foreign seller?
Yeah.
It should come up at closing. Now, it's in the contract of sale,
Right.
and, let me get that. Have any of you that have had properties, been involved in properties 300,000 and above, have you had any trouble with that paragraph? When you're listing the house, when you've got a contract of sale?
I've never had problems with that.
Yes.
When I just closed on my house in California, that was obviously a standard thing out there.
Yes.
And we do that at time of listing.
Okay.
But also for the closing, I did have to do it and have that notarized here in Oklahoma because I was not at the table.
Okay.
But it is a standard form that is utilized daily if your sale is over and out there. I think it is also 300. But you don't have to put your social on it. You can do it and then they take a copy and give it to the buyer and then they'll take your social. So
For the
it's-
IRS?
Yes,
Okay.
your sellers don't ever have to worry because I refuse to put my social on it.
Oh, good,
So
I'm
they
so glad to
did-
know what they
yeah.
did on it, okay.
They gave the copy of everything except for my social and then I put a social and they forwarded that on to the IRS.
Okay, okay, that's good. Now, everybody knows what the purpose of that is, right?
No.
Why that was put in? Well, in California and Florida, apparently, and in Hawaii, I believe, is the other state. This has been a part of their contract forever because they have a lot of foreign investors who would then run out on their capital gains taxes that they should pay, and then the person living in the house would then be liable for those taxes. Tell me if I want to make sure I'm accurate. So that is why years ago, those three states, you have an inordinate number of foreign sellers, and that's why they decided to implement this in their contract of sale. Now, it's my understanding it has been a part of our commercial contract for a long time. And so all of a sudden, we don't have an inordinate amount, or didn't here, I mean, we haven't over the years of non-foreign sellers in that price range, but the Standard Forms Committee and OREC State Committee decided well, let's just go ahead since it's in commercial and put it in our residential. So that's the reason, that it's to keep people from running out on taxes and somebody else being, capital gains and somebody else being responsible. Yes?
This is required to be attached to a residential contract now?
Well,
Or is
the
this a
non-foreign
closing
seller, the non-foreign seller paragraph is in the contract of sale. This, I feel certain, is what happens at closing.
Okay, but this is not yet another form that
No,
has
I
to be
do not
turned in
believe
with
it is,
it?
but I'm gonna check it out.
Okay,
Just based on the fact that it says the undersigned being first duly sworn. I mean,
because I've
I
seen
know.
that at closing for a number of years, I think.
does that look like the form you signed at closing?
No, ours is a little different.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, a little bit different, but I
Okay.
think essentially it's just making sure a foreign sales seller doesn't run off. In other words, we need to hold your money up for the IRS before you take it out of the country, because if you're a legal citizen, then you're gonna be doing your taxes and all that, and that's gonna be caught up later.
Right, and
And
I'm
what
telling you,
percentage
that-
of your sales if you don't sign?
Excuse me?
They'll hold 50% of the proceeds if you don't sign.
If that's only on foreign-born,
That's on anybody. Whether you're foreign or
Oh, if
not,
you don't
refuse
sign
to
this
that
form.
they'll hold 50%
okay,
of the proceeds.
okay.
the biggest concern when this was put in was that we were gonna have so many people up in arms about having to publicly divulge that information, although it's already divulged all over all their closing documents. The way the language in the contract reads, they're handing it over to the buyer. Much like in a contract of sale where it says, we're gonna be doing all that pre-title work and all that, we're not doing it, are we? It's the title company doing it. Well, it's the same thing, it's just an interpretation. So, I really thought we were gonna have a lot of pushback, and except for one situation that happened maybe the first 2 weeks it came out, I've talked several times to different title companies and have not had anybody tell me they're having any problems.
Only for things that over $300,000.
Only $300,000. Okay?
Well, all my $300,000 sales, I never had.
Okay, so what are these, GTAR, oh, those are commercial changes.
Commercial and then like they changed the information.
I don't have that, so let's go ahead. So we changed the pamphlet to read the Oklahoma residential sales contract information pamphlet to see if they changed any of the language. We'll just scroll through there. So there's the offer, the contract. I'm sorry.
Contract. Okay, purchase price. It looks like they changed all of it.
I'm trying not to lose on anybody.
So that means you really have to read it.
Where'd she go?
She wouldn't go for it.
We don't read it.
Hey, I got it. So,
Yeah, this says the offer, the contract. So,
Legal description, purchase price, everything.
some of you probably already have it too, but I've got a list of all the HOAs and condominiums and residential homeowners. So if you want that list, you can email me and I'll forward it to you. Of course, some of those people have probably been replaced, and you'll have a contact phone number if you want.
where is that?
I've got it.
Okay, why don't you email it to Angela and she'll put it on the community site.
Okay, but keep in mind, it's dated.
Yeah, the names will change.
Yeah, the
A lot
names will
more
change
different.
probably a year,
Oh, okay.
but you'll have somebody to call.
Also,
Who's on the forms committee?
I know a lot of associates, if they're going into like HOAs, and you need CCNRs, I don't know if you guys call them, do we call them CCNRs on here?
Yeah.
Okay,
What
the
is that?
covenants, conditions, and restrictions. I have a lot of CCNRs in my desk, and if you guys need them, a lot of times the sellers don't have them, just let me know, or ask your title company, because they have access to them, and they'll get them to you, so that way you'll never have to worry about missing a deadline, you can get them. So,
Who's that non-foreign seller?